You weren't born to shrink for love, approval, or comfort. Carl Jung taught us, what we accept outside reflects what we believe inside. If you truly loved yourself, you'd stop settling. This video is your wake-up call, a journey inward to reclaim your worth, your truth, and your life. We accept less than we deserve, not because we don't want more, but because somewhere deep within us, we've come to believe that less is all we are worthy of. It doesn't matter what you say out loud, or how much you try to convince yourself otherwise. If your unconscious holds a story of unworthiness, your life will mirror it back to you, over and over again. That's why you end up in relationships where you overgive and receive little in return. That's why you stay in jobs that drain your energy. That's why you tolerate mistreatment, stay silent when you should speak, shrink yourself to avoid rejection. It is not because you don't know better. It's because a hidden part of you believes that if you ask for more, you'll lose everything. This belief doesn't come from nowhere. From early childhood, we are conditioned to earn love, to perform for approval, to hide the parts of ourselves that don't fit the mold. We learn to suppress anger, sadness, even joy, because they might be too much for others. We create masks, personas, and roles, all for the sake of belonging. But in doing so, we exile parts of our true self into what Carl Jung called the shadow. The shadow is not evil. It is simply the parts of you that were never welcomed. And what's exiled doesn't disappear. It festers. It whispers through anxiety. It speaks through resentment. It sabotages through patterns. It replays old wounds through new situations, and until you listen to it, you will keep ending up in the same place, wondering why nothing ever truly changes. Every time you feel drained after being with someone, that's your shadow trying to speak. Every time your body tenses before walking into a room, that's your psyche alerting you. Every gut feeling you've ignored is a message you've been conditioned to silence. But what you do not confront within yourself, you will continue to meet in the outside world. We don't attract what we want, we attract who we are, or more accurately, who we believe we are. If your unconscious is filled with self-doubt, wounds, and unresolved fear, then no matter how much you desire happiness, success, or love, you'll find ways to push it away, sabotage it, or disqualify yourself from it. People ask why the same lessons repeat. Why do they fall in love with the same kind of partner? Why do they always feel invisible at work? Why do they never feel enough? Because the external is a mirror. The pattern continues not to punish you, but to awaken you. Life is not against you. Life is trying to wake you up. But awakening is painful. It means admitting you've allowed things that were never right for you. It means realizing that comfort has been costing you your peace. It means letting go of everything you've built around a false self just to feel safe. And letting go feels like dying. Because in a way, it is. The death of the identity you've clung to. The death of illusions. The death of roles you've played to keep love. But Jung reminds us, there is no rebirth without death. The path to wholeness requires that you stop pretending, that you stop betraying yourself for the sake of acceptance, that you stop making excuses for the pain you feel. Because until you take responsibility for your life, you will remain a victim to its circumstances. Taking responsibility does not mean blaming yourself. It means reclaiming your power. It means understanding that even if you didn't choose the wound, the healing is still your responsibility. It means being willing to sit in discomfort without numbing it, to look at your reflection without flinching, to ask hard questions like, who am I when I'm not trying to be liked? What do I truly desire beyond what's expected of me? What parts of myself have I abandoned in the name of fitting in? This is the work. And it's not glamorous. It happens in the quiet. In the moments when you say no for the first time and feel guilty. When you walk away from what's familiar and feel terrified. When you choose solitude over shallow connection. When you stop explaining yourself to people who never saw you to begin with. Self-love is not a feeling. It is a commitment. It's a decision you make again and again. Especially when it's hard, especially when it costs you something, especially when your old self screams to come back. You will be tempted to return to what's comfortable. You will miss the chaos that once felt like home. You will want to silence your truth to keep the peace. But that's not peace. That's self-abandonment. You are not here to be tolerable. You are not here to dim yourself to fit into boxes you were never meant to live in. You are here to remember who you are beneath the conditioning, the shame, the fear. You are here to reclaim the parts of you that you thought made you unlovable. Jung spoke of individuation, the journey toward becoming the whole self. It is not a path for the faint-hearted. It requires radical honesty. It demands you face your shadow, not to destroy it, but to integrate it. Because the parts you've buried hold your power. Your anger holds your boundaries. Your sadness holds your depth. Your jealousy points to your unmet needs. Your fear shows you where your soul wants to grow. Integration is the opposite of suppression. It is the choice to no longer run from yourself. And when you stop running, everything changes. You begin to see clearly. The relationships you once tolerated become unbearable. The excuses you made sound hollow. The roles you played feel suffocating. You can't pretend anymore, and you won't want to. Because authenticity, once tasted, makes pretense intolerable. You start setting boundaries without apology. You stop explaining your worth. You move from needing to be chosen to knowing you are the one who chooses. You become the author of your life, not a character in someone else's story. And this shift is not subtle. People will notice. Some will resist your change, because your growth threatens their comfort. They will accuse you of being difficult, distant, arrogant. They will tell you you've changed, as if that's a bad thing. And they're right. You have changed. You've stopped settling. You've stopped tolerating the intolerable. You've stopped watering relationships that don't pour back. And that threatens those who benefited from your silence. But this is where you must stand firm. Growth often comes with loneliness. The higher you rise in awareness, the fewer people will meet you there. But that solitude is sacred. It is not emptiness. It is space. Space to heal. Space to hear yourself. Space to call in what actually aligns. Because alignment isn't about forcing things to happen. It's about creating the inner conditions that allow them to arrive. Jung spoke of synchronicity, moments when the universe mirrors your internal shift through meaningful coincidence. When you choose yourself, life responds. Not because it's magic, but because your energy has changed. You no longer chase, you attract. You no longer beg, you invite. You no longer grasp, you allow. The external begins to reflect your internal worth, but only once you believe it first. You must be willing to be the first one to see your value, even when no one else does, especially then. The greatest lie we've been told is that we must earn worthiness, that we must hustle, prove, perfect ourselves to be lovable. But worth is not earned. It is remembered. And the moment you remember your worth, you begin to see how much you've been settling, how many compromises you've made just to feel safe, how many times you've chosen silence over truth, how often you've mistaken crumbs for a feast. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. You can't unknow your own value. You can't pretend you're okay with less. And yes, this will create tension. Between who you were and who you are becoming. Between your old world and the new one waiting. Between your fear and your faith. But you were not meant to live in pieces. You were not meant to perform healing. You were meant to live it. You were not meant to survive. You were meant to thrive. Every time you say no to what drains you, you say yes to what aligns. Every time you let go of what no longer resonates, you make space for what does. Every time you choose authenticity over approval, you come home to yourself. And the more you come home to yourself, the less you tolerate what dishonors you. Not because you're bitter, but because you're finally free. The fear of letting go will try to convince you that the unknown is worse than what you already have. But ask yourself, how much longer will you let fear make your choices? How much longer will you keep yourself small because safety feels more comfortable than expansion? How many times will you keep betraying yourself just to keep the peace? How many more moments will you waste trying to be acceptable, digestible, tolerable? You were not born to live half a life. You were not born to edit yourself into fragments. You were not born to settle for someone else's version of happiness. You were born to remember your wholeness, to rise, to take up space, to live a life that feels like yours. If you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. Not because it's written in the stars, but because it's already written inside you. That quiet discomfort you feel, that restlessness, that longing for more, that is not your imagination. That is your soul, trying to lead you home. And the path home begins when you stop settling, when you stop negotiating your worth, when you stop waiting for permission to be who you already are.